one of the things that we do as a church is we develop young people and young leaders. That's one of our goals. We don't always do it great, but so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be watching young people kind of grow and develop. So Jack is here today. Jack has preached once before at a different church in town.
Grabbed my butt.
He held his butt the whole time. I think he was so nervous. It was like the whole time. So if you see him do that this morning, just point him out. Just be like, dude, you're doing it again. But it was a lot of fun. So anyway, next week Allison's gonna preach. Where's Allison? Right there in the front. I don't know how I missed you. We're excited about that. I'm pretty sure I know what that one's going to be about. Sheep?
You guys!
Sheep? But this is a great place. Thank you all for being a safe place for young leaders to develop. I'm going to pray. I told you you were going to pray, but now I'm going to switching it up. And then Jack will begin. Lord, we are grateful to be here this morning. Thank you so much for this church family. We are grateful to call this place home. We're grateful for the new lives that you've created. We're grateful for new life that you create in us each and every day. Lord, help us be more and more like you. Thank you that you trust us with young people and that you give us an opportunity to help them grow and stretch them and try new things. So Lord, thank you for that. We just lift up the rest of this morning to you. As we start out this new year, we want to put you first and we want to just know you in a new way through Jack's words to us today. So we appreciate this time that you give us, and we just want you to know how thankful we are for it. So it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Here's Johnson.
Is this on? Hello? It is. So did you guys hear about the football player last night that got hit and his left side got paralyzed? He's all right now. Don't worry about it. It is? It was great, right? Tons of the best. Alright. So how many of you guys have been to an awkward party? Has anyone been to an awkward party in here? Like you just show up and you're not really sure why you're there and you feel weird about it. I had one last night. Our party last night was a little awkward, wasn't it? Yes, it got weird. Yeah, and so you just feel kind of awkward, you feel kind of excluded from other people, or you just don't know everyone in the room. Sometimes it can be like that you're having a good time and then someone will say something and then everyone's like, ooh, too far. You know, I'm always the person in my family that does that. I'm always the one that takes the jokes over the line. Yeah, way too far. And it's terrible, right, to go to an awkward party, because when you go to an awkward party, you're kind of trapped. Like you're stuck, like you're already there, you're committed. You know, there's no like walk in, walk out, right? You at least have to stay for 30 minutes. You know, you at least have to, it'd be nice. So today we're actually going to be, it might sound like I'm just rambling, but today we're going to actually talk about a time that Jesus went to an awkward party, and how he dealt with that. And we're just going to kind of talk about it since it's the holiday season, and you probably all had awkward family parties and stuff like that, because family is always awkward sometimes. Alright, so today, if you just want to open up, we're going to be in Matthew 9:9. Matthew is the first book of the New Testament, so it's going to be about 2/3 through your Bible. If you have a phone, go ahead, pull it out. Just don't be on Facebook. Alright, so Matthew 9:9, Jesus is just starting his ministry. He's just starting to kind of begin to gather his disciples around. And so as he's gathering his disciples around, and he starts to perform miracles in 2 chapters before this. So he's coming to a city called Capernaum. Now Capernaum is a border town into Galilee. It's one of the main ways that they would have traveled, the Romans would have used to get into Galilee and out of Galilee. And so because of this, the Romans set up a very intricate system of tax collectors, right? Because the Romans were huge on taxes. We know that. And so the Romans would have set up a head tax collector on each border town. And they would have given the tax collector all the power and authority that a man could have. Okay? And this tax collector was named Matthew. Mark and Luke call him Levi, but Matthew calls himself Matthew, because he's the guy that writes Matthew, so he calls himself by his name that he becomes after he meets Jesus. So Matthew would literally have the power in Capernaum, if people were coming into town, He would have the power to take their clothes, to take the wheels off their wagons, to take any of their cattle or sheep or anything. He could take anything of theirs. And the Romans said that that's okay, that was the power he had. He could take their kids, he could take anything from them. And they couldn't complain about it. And so what the tax collectors would do at the time is tax collectors were Jews that turned on the Jews. Okay? They went to the Roman government instead. And so the Jews hated them because these tax collectors would get so rich because they would take so much that the Romans didn't ask them for. The Romans would ask them to this amount of taxes, and the tax collectors would raise it to here, and then they'd take what's in the middle. Okay? And so since Matthew's on this border town, it's very important that we know that Matthew would have had a lot of money. He would have been a very rich person, which is very different than the other disciples that Jesus had carried. Because the other disciples Jesus had met were not rich. They didn't have much. They were fishermen. They were just making it. They were making it day to day. But Matthew wasn't like that at all. He would have had a lot of money. Everyone in Capernaum would have known Matthew. Okay? Everyone would have, because everyone would have had to deal with Matthew. He's kind of like the head honcho, you know? It's kind of like when Steve Jobs was alive. Everyone at Apple would know who Steve Jobs was, because he was the man who was running the place, right? And so Jesus would have known who Matthew was, okay? And Matthew would have had probably one of the worst reputations in the city. Worse than murderers or any of that, because the Jews would have despised him. Okay, it would be like how we feel about Colorado natives that root for the Broncos. Or that root for the Patriots, right? Instead of the Broncos, right? Right, Uncle Dave? They're terrible people, right? We hate you. Or the people that drive those Raider cars around. I'm like, I want to hit you. It's like, we would have just, Okay, so Matthew would have had a lot of money. Okay, and Matthew also, another cool thing, would have known about Jesus. Okay, because he would have heard people talking about him. Because Galilee was Jesus' area, okay? Word would have started spreading about Jesus, so Matthew would have heard of him. Matthew may have even heard Jesus speak at this point. We don't know if he had or not, but he would have heard Jesus speak. So in verse 9, Matthew says that, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. So I kind of hate the disciples in one way, because they make their faith seem so easy, right? Like, they make it seem like he just walks up and he's like, "Follow me," and they're like, "Got it," like, and they leave, right? And actually, one of the coolest things is this story is in 3 of the 4 Gospels. It's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. All 3 of them talk about the story of Matthew. Again, Mark and Luke call it the story of Levi. And so, the coolest thing is that Luke, in his version of the story, says that Matthew gave up everything. He gave up everything. Now, before, like we said, the other disciples who gave up everything, they would have just given up a couple boats, maybe a little bit of money, a house, or whatever. But Matthew would have given up a reputation. He would have given up all the power in the world. The Romans at this time were in control of everything, right? Like, I don't know how much you guys know about history, but I'm a huge history nerd. And the Romans were one of the strongest governments that were ever created. Right? That's why America formed their government to look like the Romans. Right? So this guy would have had all the power, all the authority, all the money he wanted. Anything he wanted, he could take. But he gave it all up. And that's one of the coolest things, is that he gave it all up. And so just remember that as we go through this next part, that Matthew gave up everything to follow Jesus, okay? So then in verse 10, it changes a little bit, because Matthew is going to start he's going to have kind of like a goodbye party, because when you became a disciple in the Jewish culture of someone, because not just Jesus had disciples, all of the Pharisees would have had certain disciples, you would give up everything you had, and you would follow around that person, okay? It's kind of like becoming a groupie, I guess, what you could call it, right? You join, and then that would be your life, okay? That person would be in charge of you, you go with them, you give up everything, okay? So in verse 10 it says that, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. So I don't know about you guys, but I have, you can always tell who a person's friends are by who they are, right? Like, normally, some people are a little different, but normally you can tell, if this person's like this, they're going to be friends with people like that. Like, if I'm a sports guy, I'm going to be friends with people who like sports, right? No, you guys don't like sports, you're losers. But we're glad you're here today. And so if Matthew was rejected by the Jewish community, we can imagine what his friends would be like, right? Because they would be others that were rejected by the Jewish community, right? They would be the outcasts of the thing. So imagine what this party would be like, right? It would be filled with a bunch of sinners and tax collectors and just partiers, right? And so the Pharisees, which we talked about, were the Pharisees, just a reminder, were the ones who were law-filled. They got their fulfillment with God by following the law. They stayed clean. They didn't want to get dirty. They were all about knowledge. They'd spent their entire lives studying the Bible. And so all they cared about was being clean, okay? So to everyone else that was dirty, they were beneath them. The Pharisees became very conceited in how they thought of themselves. They raised themselves up to a next tier and thought that they were better than them. So the Pharisees coming to this party would not have been to join the party. It would have been to ridicule Jesus. Okay, the Pharisees were not there to preach or to talk about the Bible or to do that. They were there for one reason, and that was to go after Jesus. They would have not been there. They did not care about any of those tax collectors and sinners. They just didn't. They were not into converting people. They didn't care about that. They had theirs, and those people had theirs, okay? So they were all about the law, and they were filled, so they don't need to fill up other people. And so that in verse 12, when Jesus says, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, the Pharisees would have used this a lot. And all of the sinners and tax collectors that they call at the party would have heard this a lot too. It was kind of like, do any of you guys' parents have like a phrase that they'll use all the time? And it's like, you have no idea where it comes from? Like, my mom says the weirdest things sometimes when she's mad. Like, she'll be like, can't even think of one. She says the weirdest things, right? And I've heard him over and over and over and over. I get in trouble a lot. And over and over. And that's what the tax collectors would have thought about this healthy phrase. Because that's what the Pharisees used. The Pharisees used the word healthy as a way to describe their sin. So the Pharisees thought when they were law clean that they would have been healthy. It wasn't a way to describe their physical being, it was a way to describe their inner being. Okay, so they would have thrown this in the tax collectors' face all the time. The tax collectors would have been called sick, and the sinners would have been called sick and disgusting and dirty and diseased and all of that a lot. And so what Jesus is doing here is he's kind of flipping it around on them, right? And so another thing to understand about this culture is it's not like they were sitting there with Jesus and then they're like, so why are you hanging out with sinners, right? In this culture, it was a shame culture, right? It was an honor and shame culture. So if you were trying to shame someone, specifically in the Pharisees' culture, okay, specifically up higher, not so much in like the sinners and Gentiles group, but mostly in the Jewish group, if you were going to shame someone, you ask them a question publicly. Okay, it wasn't like our culture today where you can just ask someone a question just to know. It had nothing to do with knowing knowledge. It was to call him out. It's kind of like roasting him. Okay, they were trying to roast him. But also in that culture, if you were trying to roast the person who's trying to roast you, if you're trying to throw off the challenge that they just laid on you, you'd give a quick response. You'd give a quick, witty response, right? And that would it's kind of like, who's the alpha, you know? And so this response would have frustrated the Pharisees to their core. It would have upset them so much, because what he's saying here is he's saying, but go and learn what this means. He just told them that they don't know what the scripture means. Like, in front of a bunch of sinners, they would have not been happy with that. Like, that's like calling them out, you know? They would have not been happy. But here's one thing that I want us to remember, and if you have someone to write it down, I just want you to write it down because it's so good. It's so good. The Pharisees proved their religion by being clean. Okay? They proved their religion by being clean. They stayed pure, they followed the law, they followed the rules, they followed everything God asked them to do. But Jesus was not there to follow the law. He did, but that was not his mission. Jesus proved his love for those sinners by getting dirty. Because Jesus knew that's not what he came here for. He did not come here to have religious talks with the Pharisees. That was not his mission. He loved the Pharisees, and he loved the knowledge that the Pharisees knew. Because the Pharisees weren't bad people, guys. We sometimes pin them as bad people. They weren't. They were just confused. They were going too strong on the knowledge thing. They didn't understand this love aspect. But Jesus did. So why the Pharisees saw Jesus? The Pharisees saw Jesus' association with these sinners as condoning their sin. He saw them hanging out with sinners, and they said, oh, you think it's okay for them to treat us like that? You think it's okay for them to sin? Right? But that's not what Jesus is saying. He's saying, why would the healthy need a doctor? I'm pretty infamous in our house for always telling people to go to the doctor, because I'm a wimp. So anytime I'm sick or other people are sick, I tell them to go to the doctor. Right? And that's because they're sick, right? But if they're healthy, I'm not telling them to go to a doctor, right? You never think about the doctor when you're healthy, right? That's why doctors get so frustrated, because everyone always comes in after they're sick than before, right? We always find out after instead of before. We never preemptively go to the doctor. That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, you guys have got it all wrong. You're calling yourself healthy. You're calling yourself them sick. Then why would I go to you if you're healthy? Why would I help you if you're healthy? Right? Because how are these sinners going to know me? How are these sinners going to know me? It's one of the coolest things about Jesus, is that Jesus opens his heart to everyone. It's one of my favorite things about Jesus. He opens his heart to everyone in the community. Everyone that's ever existed, Jesus has opened his heart to. No matter what they've done, no matter what they're going to do, no matter who they are, what they believe, people who hate Jesus and people who talk about that Jesus never existed, Jesus still opens his heart to them. How hard is that for us to do? If someone ridiculed you your whole life, would you open your heart to them? No, we put up walls, but here's the thing, Jesus is all about breaking down walls, right? No, I'm a huge Apple fan. I got the watch, I got the phone, I got the computer, huge Apple fan. And if you like PCs, I can't talk to you. But Apple, this holiday season, Apple did something amazing. And normally, like, Apple is a little like, when they get to politics and all of that. But Apple released a holiday commercial. Has anyone seen their holiday commercial yet? No? It's one of the most amazing holiday commercials I've ever seen. We're going to watch it here in a couple seconds. Okay? And I want you guys to watch it, okay? And then we're going to watch it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, okay? And just watch it, but I want you to think about something, okay? Two things while you're watching it. Ask yourself, who is Jesus in this video? And ask yourself, who am I in this video? Okay? So let's go ahead and watch it.
Oh, there's no place like home on the holidays.
Overtime!
They said we could watch it over and over. I don't know what happened.
Jimmy,
Probably recorded, yes.
Isn't that gonna work? Okay.
I've seen it though.
So, has anyone not seen the commercial?
No.
Okay, so here's what the commercial is, basically. Here's what the commercial is. So the little girl flicks on a light bulb, and then she starts singing the song with him, and then everyone joins in and sings the song with him, right? And he's all smiling. And at the end of the commercial, Apple says, "Open your heart to everyone," right? And it's so cool to me. It's so cool. Because who was Jesus in that commercial? The little girl, right? Did the little girl care about who Frankenstein was? No, right? What did the little girl care about? Frankenstein, right? It's called Frankie's Story or something like that, and I just loved it. It comes on during the Bronco games, and it makes me happier than the Bronco games. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. Broncos ruined Christmas, so. It's just so amazing, right? Because was it a lot of work for that little girl to do? Did she really go out of her way? And who are we in that? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm in the crowd. When people are weird, or out of place, or I don't feel like they're like me, I kind of take a step back. I do what the crowd does sometimes, and that's wrong, right? And that's something that I feel like the church has a really big issue with. We have a really big issue with, because we get in the pattern of being the Pharisees, guys. And I hate to say that, and I don't hear that like, oh, it's a millennial saying that. He's perfect. You guys are the problem, right? It's not. Right? Millennials struggle with this so much too. We talk about that we're not judgmental. We're as judgmental as any generation. We judge people so much, right? But the church has got to change, guys. Who do we want to be in that? Who do we want to be in that? Do we want to be the little girl? Because you know what? Did she have to have deep theological discussions with Frankenstein in that? What did she have to do? Sing a song. That was it. Right? Now I want to tell a story about a time that I realized this. And it was really hard. It was a really hard time. So my senior year, which was last year, there was a girl in my class who was gay. She was gay. And I had had known her, but I didn't really talk to her much throughout freshman, sophomore, and junior year. But senior year, I got put in a class with her. And James was in this class too. And we got seated right next to her, right? Now, in my school, we went to a small school, so it wasn't like there was like 800 kids in our class. Like, everyone knew who each other were, right? So I knew that she was gay, and she knew that I was a strong Christian, right? We knew it, okay? But I said to myself, I'm not doing this. I'm not going down this road. I'm going to treat her just like if she was any other person. She's going to be my friend, right? And so every day we'd come into this class, and we would have the stupidest small discussions. We talked about the stupidest thing. We used to have this game that was like, we would ask, like, what would you do for $1 million or whatever? And we'd talk about it every day, because it was a ceramics class, so most of it was talking. We would talk every day, the whole time. So for a whole year, we sat next to this girl, right? And so then graduation, we graduate, it's great because she's in our class too, it's great. And our school, since it was a small school, they have some cute traditions, so cute. And one of the traditions they did is that the seniors would make envelopes, because the seniors left a week early from the rest of the school, right? And so the seniors would make envelopes and put them on the wall, and then anyone in the school could write them a letter and drop it in your envelope. It would have your name on it. And then graduation day, you'd get the envelope, and then you could read them, right? And so I was going through my envelope, and I saw one from this girl, a letter from this girl. And so I read it. And the beginning of it was just a bunch of jokes and inside jokes and all of that. But then the end of it broke my heart. The end of it said, "Thank you for being the Christian that saw me as more than gay." And it broke my heart. Because she had never had that before. I invited her to my graduation party, and when she got there, she said it was the first party she'd been invited to all high school. And it broke my heart because I was up here acting like I was a Christian man. I'm doing this, I love Jesus, but I wasn't getting the point. I wasn't getting the point. And it breaks my heart because I do it all the time. I see someone that's different than me and I say, no, I'm right, you're wrong. I see someone who doesn't believe the same as me and I say, I'm taking a step back. Right? I hide them. I hide different communities. I push them away, right? And the church does that together. Guys, I have a sad thing to tell you. In 2016, it was the highest suicide rate that it's ever been. And I put that on us. Because here's the thing that Jesus taught us that we don't understand. All he came to do was love. All he came to do was love. And we have so many people that are dying without knowing Jesus. Do you know what that means? What does that mean, guys? What does it mean about us and what we believe in Jesus if we don't believe that he's good enough to see someone's end when they're stuck in a situation? Because to the to the Pharisees, Matthew was never going to be anything more than a tax collector. But to Jesus, who did he become? We're talking about him now, and it's 2017, right? Jesus opened his heart to everyone. And it's because Jesus meets people in their sin. He meets people on the road. He meets people in their lives. And he tells them, you know what? You're more to me than your sin. You're more to me than your sin, guys. It broke my heart when she said that. Because that was 4 years that I could have been showing her who Jesus was without even having to say Jesus' name. Kate always tells me this quote all the time. And we always argue about who said it because it's not St. Francis of Assisi that said it. It's not. She's wrong. And the quote says, preach the gospel often. Use words when necessary. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! Baptist boys coming out. Preach the gospel often, use words when necessary. I could have been preaching to her for 4 years. I could have let her know how much she was loved, and I didn't. I had to be forced into it. And because it was an awkward situation, I was at the awkward party, at the table. And I was like, this is going to be for a year, what do I do? Right? So what do we want to be in 2017? Who do we want to reach? Now, I'm not saying go find a monster, because I don't know how many of those exist. But here's what I'm saying. Opening your heart to everyone can be as easy as smiling to someone that you normally don't. Right? Opening your heart to everyone can be as easy as this. So there's a person in our lives, it's called Amy Bird. Love Amy Bird. One of the most godly women I know. Right? She lives in Oklahoma now. It's really sad. Oklahoma's terrible. And she's one of the most godly women I know. She's been in my mom and dad's lives for forever, and she's so amazing. And my parents literally thought she was an angel there for a little bit. Literally thought she was an angel there for a little bit. And my mom was telling me a story a couple days ago about how Amy and my mom used to go to church together. They would talk for a little bit, but they would never sit together in church. They never once sat together in church. Because they knew that the other person knew Jesus. They knew that Amy knew that Trish loved Jesus, Trish knew that Amy loved Jesus, they're good. Right? There's so many other people in the church that need us right now. Right? It's as simple as that, guys. It's as simple as saying, you know, I love my friends, but I'm going to preach and then invite them so then they have to sit alone. I love my friends, but they're good. I'm going to go sit with someone who may feel uncomfortable right now. Because if any of you guys ever church shopped, it's terrible. Churches are terrible at church shopping. We're all like, we're coming to the community. It's terrible. We're so bad at it. Every church. There's no church that gets it right. You feel uncomfortable. You feel awkward. You're like, do I get a coffee? Do I not get a coffee? Do I have to pay for the coffee? What's the coffee? I don't know. Where do I sit? Front row? Are the reserved seats? I don't know. Right? It's so stressful. It's so stressful. I haven't church shopped that much in my life because we've always been in church, but there was a period of time we did church shop, and I was like, what is life? What is life? Okay? It's as simple as that, guys. Opening your heart to each other is as simple as walking across the room. My dad used to have a friend. He was a pastor friend because that's all he's friends with. Who would tell his church to have Matthew parties. Okay? And their Matthew parties would be that they would invite different people to their house that they normally wouldn't invite. Not normally people they're close to, not normally friends. And they would just have a good discussion, just talk, just have fun. They'd play games. Opening your heart, that's an extreme, right? I would never do that. I am the most introverted extrovert in the world. I shut down around new people. I'm not good at it, right? But opening your heart to everyone, guys. The crazy thing about opening your heart to everyone is you won't know how much it impacts them. The one story with the girl in my high school, I would have no idea that small talk meant that much to her unless she wrote that letter. Right? No idea. No idea. That's the point. Right? Open your heart to everyone, guys. So I want us all to read this together. Okay? Because Jesus meets people in their sin and shows them that they are more to him than their sin. So what is the house church going to do in 2017? Let's read it together. The house church meets people in their sin and shows them they are more to us than their sin. Right? Whew! Because here's the thing, guys. Listen, churches get ranked, right? There's a ranking of churches, right? Like, this one's really good at, it's like sports teams. Like, if there was Church Madden, right? James would still cheat at it. If there was Church Madden, right, there'd be a bunch of different categories, and some churches are way better than others, right? Like New Life, check, got the worship down, right? They're really good at that, right? Some other churches, really good at preaching. This church today, 100% at preaching. 99 overall. But here's the only category that matters. It's the only category that matters. And we're failing at it, guys. And it's hard to say, and it's an awkward conversation, and it may be an awkward party in here right now, but it's a conversation we need to have. Because what's the point of the gospel if we're not sharing it? Yeah. Right? Last time when I worked at Calvary, I preached about how the harvest is ready, but the workers are few, right? They're out there. Everyone has struggles in their lives. Everyone has issues. Here's the difference between people who have faith and don't. The people that have faith have someone to go to. The people that don't have faith have nothing. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know who to go to. Right? And then when they try to go to it, we're like, sorry, can't come in. Right? Sorry. Right? When people say, oh, there's injustice because a cop shot a kid. Right? And then the church goes, sorry, can't go that far with you, right? It's a hard conversation. 2016 was a hard year, right? Because the church kind of was not on board with that Black Lives Matter movement, right? We were not. Maybe not just this church. I'm not talking about this church, I'm talking about the big church, right? Overall, we were not on board with that, right? With the people who are afraid of the new president, we weren't really that on board with those people, right? With the people who are super happy with the new president, maybe we weren't on board with those people. The problem with America is that we're so divided. We can never see the other side. But Jesus was in here in the way more divided time. If you think America's bad, read about Rome. Right? It was messed up. But Jesus opened his heart to everyone. He said, Pharisees, Gentiles, let's have a party. Right? So here's the thing that I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't come to church, because church is not for Christians. I'm not saying that at all. Come to church. I like how full it is in here. But what I'm saying is, we can't always expect to invite people to church and then check opening our heart to everyone off the list. Because what I'm not talking about is just saying, hey, want to come to church with me? That's great, do that, love it. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about everyone in your life, making them wonder who you are when you walk away. Maybe we're the people, Coloradoans are bad at driving, okay? We're stupid bad at driving, okay? I don't blame Caleb, but a little bit I blame Caleb.
Wow.
Never give me a second. But maybe we're not the people that retaliate in the road rage, right? I do it all the time. Yeah, oh my gosh. One time I was driving to Culver's, and someone tried to race me. Yeah. Ooh. Lily. Maybe we just smile more often. Maybe when we, I work on cashier at Dick's Sporting Goods, and the thing I hate the most about that job is when people come in and they go, no, no, no. And then they just give me the cash and then they walk away. It's the worst. And they're just like, no, I don't want that, no, no. How's your day? Good. Let's not be those people, guys. What if you go in the grocery store and you go, how's your day doing? How you doing? Maybe you buy the cashier a water bottle. They're like $1. And you give it to them. Or a snack or something. And you go, have a nice day. I hope you had a great day. You know, that's opening your heart to everyone. But that's really difficult. It's really hard because people are scary. There's so many people and they're so intense sometimes. I meet so many people every day that just wig me out. That's what's great about it. And if you guys didn't know, I help teach the middle schoolers on Sunday mornings in first service. We didn't have it today because and this week, this January, we're talking about identity. Spoiler alert, guys. And we're going to talk about potatoes. Okay. This is going to spoil us a little bit. You guys will forget. It's the end of January. You guys have like 2-second memories. Oh! We're talking about potatoes. And the cool thing about potatoes is if you carve a potato, or you carve like 5 potatoes, the inside of every single one of them looks super different. Carve a potato, don't make fun of me. It looks super different, right? And it's super cool because they're so unique and so complex inside. What do we look like inside? Right? What do we look like inside? So let's stop in 2017 writing people off. Okay? Let's say that we have so much faith in our God. We have so much faith in our Jesus. We love how Jesus loves people. That we believe that He knows who people can become. Right? Because we don't. We do this really good thing. It's called hindsight bias, because I took a psychology class and loved it. Where we think we know. Like if you ask people questions on a test and then tell them the answers, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I said. And when they won't say it, that's what we do. We're like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. We don't, guys. We don't. There's no one that gets it right. But let's start getting it right, right? Let's start. You see someone down? Woo! Blow the speakers. Right? I do that every time I preach. Let's be the church that when people look at us on our Madden rankings, which I'm going to start making, it's going to be a website, churchmaddenrankings.com. Let's start being the church that gets 100 in that.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's not going to be easy. I promise you it's not going to be easy. Okay? But it's worth it, guys. 100% worth it. Because people are so amazing. And people have so much to offer the world. Right? And Jesus died for all of them. He died for every single one of them. We're all a bunch of potatoes on the inside. So unique and complex. Right? So let's start acting like it. Okay? No more we're here on Sunday and we stay in our little groups. No more of that. Let's start being accountable to each other. We're all adults, except for the kids in the room, which doesn't really work. We're all adults. We should be able to say, Allison, what was that? You know? She's the first. I didn't want to call it Luke. Right? We should be able to say, guys, come on, let's go sit with that person. There's people that come in here, guys, and no one goes and talks to them, and I'm the first one that doesn't go to talk to them. I'm like, someone else should do that. Someone on staff. Allison? right? So I'm going to wrap up here because I've been rambling forever. But I just want us to know that we should be accountable to each other, to keep our hearts open. And that we should show that love of Jesus to everyone. And sometimes showing that love of Jesus isn't talking about Jesus, okay? Sometimes it's just being nice. Because this is a messed up world. People are rude. So let's be nice, okay? Let's pray. Lord, thank you for 2017. Thank you for another year that we don't deserve. Thank you for loving us so uniquely, Lord. Just thanks for letting us have the opportunity to love one another, Lord. Fill our hearts, Lord, this 2017, and let's go make change. Let's go to the people who are afraid of 2017, and let's say, it's okay, we got you. Let's go to the people that don't know what they're doing in life, and let's say, it's okay, we don't either. Lord, just help us fill our hearts with your love, Lord, because you love all of us so, so much, and we don't deserve any of it. Thanks for 2017, Lord. In your precious name, amen.